much larger, weightier decisions that are going to be the foundation for your relationship going forward.
And if you listen to this series, you hear in pursuit, there's intention. In dating, there's intention. Engagement, there's intention. There's always going to be some kind of intention when it comes to relationships.
Hi, guess what? We are on episode 7 of Redefining Relationships. And this has been a fun season as we have dug into all sorts of different relationship issues, whether it be singleness or distractions or, like dating. The last episode. Yeah, oh goodness. If you didn't check out the Pursuit episode, you need to check it out with Michael. So this is my husband, Michael Tomlin, and I'm Caroline Tomlin, and we are the founders of Waves Ministry. And we're so excited that you've decided to join our podcast today for whatever the reason is. We are so pumped to have you. We got married in July, and we've been together a little over a year, I would say, at this point. But we are just excited to dive into this topic. And so today we are talking about engagement. And not like engagement online or engagement with other people, like just engaging with them. That was one of my words for the year several years ago, was the word engage. And I was just constantly like engaging with people. But we're talking about engagement as far as it goes in relationships.
That's right.
And so whenever I think of engagement, I think of our engagement story and our proposal story. And so we're going to kind of tag team this episode. I would love to hear our proposal story.
Okay.
So you did all the planning.
So this is I love sharing the story of our proposal. I really do. So there's some groundwork you have to understand of what happened here. So Caroline was very very specific on a few things, right? Right? Like most girls are like, make sure my nails are done, or make sure I'm wearing a certain outfit, or, make sure...
The nails was going to be a given.
Yeah. So like every girl has the same thing. So, but something specifically she said was, I don't want it to be public. Please, I want my engagement to be private.
I feel like a lot of my life has been public. Hello. Welcome to my living room. And so I felt like I wanted a special moment like that to be private. Now, other people want it like large in charge, all their family, all their friends, whatever. Good for you. Yeah. But for me, I wanted private.
So in doing that, there was a couple things that I had thought to myself. And I was like, okay, so we've never been on a helicopter ride. Maybe something to do. We have our favorite date night spot. And then me being songwriter and all that, I was like, need to write a song. Yes.
That's so you.
And I was like, maybe if we could put it all on video, even better. So I got all these ideas together and I put them together. Literally so this is how it happened. I plan a date night. We're driving to the restaurant. And as we're driving to the restaurant, I passed the restaurant.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought we were going to Bitterroot. What's going on?
So I passed the restaurant. She was like, wait. And I was like, actually, before our reservation, we're going to go on a helicopter ride at sunset. And she was like, what? So we get in, we do like a helicopter ride. That was super cool.
And honestly, the whole time we're in the helicopter ride, like I'm taking in the beautiful scenery because this helicopter ride over the ocean, like beautiful from here to 30A and back. And I'm thinking, is he going to ask me right here in the helicopter? I've got a thing on my head. I've got the little headphones on my head. And I'm thinking, there's a little man in this helicopter. Is he going to be witness? How can he take photos if he's driving the helicopter? I'm like thinking all these things. I'm like, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it, Caroline. Enjoy it.
So we land. That was great. Woohoo.
Beautiful.
We go to the restaurant. We eat at the restaurant, and she's like...
I am like on pins and needles.
She really is. Like, at this point, she knows something's going on. And
every song they play over the loudspeaker system, I'm like...
You're like acutely like in tune to like, what's it?
I'm paying attention. I'm like looking at my glass when it comes out. I'm like, surely he wouldn't put a diamond ring in the glass.
I'm not
That's
that stupid.
Gross.
I'm not that dumb. I wouldn't put it in food either. It's so dumb. Anyways, then I go to we're done. We go back to my apartment at the time, and I was like, I was like, oh, dang it. I forgot. There was a song I wanted to show you while we were out.
Wait. And meanwhile, I'm like looking at his balcony, like, is anything sus going on up there? I'm like, when we walk into his apartment, everything is in perfect order. Like, there's nothing out of place. Like, everything's normal.
There's no extra flowers.
No extra flowers, nothing. And so
Nope.
I'm super confused. I'm like, well, maybe it's not tonight. Maybe it's not happening.
Nope.
I don't know.
So I show her the song.
Which, it's not unlike him. Like, every day of the week, he's like, hey, I got this new song. So that's not odd.
So it's super normal. So the whole point was I didn't want her to like know when it was coming the whole night, which I feel like I did a good job.
You did.
But I show her the song. The last song of the song says, "Caroline, will you marry me?" And
about the first chorus, I'm like, this sounds oddly familiar. Like, well, it was the words. It was like, well, every couple watches sunsets, you know? And then it was like, he said something and I was like, oh, I was like, that's me.
Well,
that's me.
So then I say my spiel, how much I love you, spend the rest of my life with you, will you marry me? And that was it. But I caught all of it on video. Like, if you go to our socials, you'll see it on our personals, our TikTok, our Instagram, whatever. But I made a thing because I was like, this is so good. We got it on video.
Really
she said, I love you. We called family. It was wonderful. But that's why, I mean, my advice to a guy when it comes to proposing would honestly be ask your girl and like kind of be aware of what they want. Like, she specifically said, I do not want to be public. I want it to be private.
If he'd done something super public, I would have been frustrated. Or if he'd done something where my hair looked jacked up, like where we'd hiked or something, I would have been mad. I would have been like, you do not know me. Like, this is the first test, gentlemen, of whether you know your chick or not. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, she loves you, so she's going to say yes. But, like...
It's not, like...
You need to know her.
Listen to your woman and plan around that. So, for me, that was...
And the ring was simply gorgeous, too. That's another thing I hear so often. Like, dudes will just pick out a ring that they like, not what their fiance wants. And I am...
She's got the rock.
But I would say that too. Like, those two things, like, y'all need to listen. For real. So, those were some of the key reasons why you chose to propose the way that you proposed.
Absolutely. Because I listened to what you said. Now that we've shared our story and kind of that's how we did it. That's how we did it. Let's hear a little bit more about engagement as kind of a general in regards to relationships. What is engagement in the natural and in the supernatural?
So engagement is a time of really just mutual agreement or mutual promise to marry. Mm-hmm. I mean, put it at the basics, like in a relationship, it is saying like, I am choosing to engage with you towards marriage, if you really think about it. Mm-hmm. And in the natural, it's an outward sign of what's going on inside of your heart. Like, your heart, hopefully, is already at a place of marriage.
Yeah.
Like, your heart is already like, I'm going there. Like, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't imagine my life without you. Like, in the natural, it is saying, hey, I'm putting everybody on notice. This is my man. Mm-hmm. Like, this is my woman. Like, this is who I want. It says that you're really spoken for. Like, hey, like, whenever a guy would see me, they would see, oh, there's this giant ring on her finger. She's spoken for. Like, she's already promised to someone else, right?
Yeah.
So those are kind of the key parts to that.
And I'll add to that, because if you remember back in the day, they actually used to engagement was actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe there's like a betrothing type where they almost say, I'm going to put my daughter and your son together, and that's so it was the way that history evolved. Engagement has been pretty interesting over if you look at the timeline of it. But to me, engagement also would be there's you're publicly showing how your hearts are coming into alignment.
Yeah. That's
right. Because you mentioned about, there's intent, right? There's intention, right? And if you listen to this series, you hear In pursuit, there's intention. In dating, there's intention. Engagement, there's intention. There's always going to be some kind of intention when it comes to relationships.
Right.
And I think, from a man's perspective, I always have intention. And even in marriage, as we are married, I would say there's still intention behind everything, whether it's date nights or overnight trips or children or all of the things that are, you always are intentional in relationships. And I think that keeps some fire going in your relationship.
It does. Absolutely.
So what would you say that the world thinks about engagement? What does the world say about engagement?
I think what the world says about engagement is primarily about the wedding.
Yeah.
Honestly, like engagement for the world is more about planning a wedding. That it's like, oh, it's this season. Like your engagement season is dictated by how long you have the ability to plan a wedding, or how long you want the wedding to take to plan. And so like a lot of times that dictates it, when in reality, engagement should be not necessarily dictated by the wedding.
Yeah.
Engagement is a season of time that it takes to get your lives into alignment for marriage.
So what's preparation?
It's preparation season. It's not necessarily preparation for the wedding. It's preparation for the marriage.
Right.
And so I think the world, a lot of times, like anytime a girl is engaged, immediately when they get a ring on their finger, they say, when's the date? When's the date? Now, we actually picked our wedding date before we got engaged.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
But the thing is like a lot of people, they're focused more on the wedding part of it. And it's like the wedding is literally just a day that you're spending to really celebrate with your friends and family. Like, hey, that we've decided to get married.
Yeah.
But the world is more about that and more about just taking their time in that season. And it's saying like, oh, like they're not just dating anymore. They're serious. Like they're serious business. Like that. There's a little bit more promise and weight to it.
Yeah, I would agree. That there was a saying that I heard a while back that talked about how people, when you're looking at marriages and the way how marriages fail, a lot of them say it's about the wedding, not about the marriage, right? Like you're ready for a wedding, but you're not actually ready for a marriage. Right. And so how do we prepare our hearts for the wedding? For marriage. And so, the next episode, we're going to talk a lot about that, because we want you to get through these seasons. And maybe a little easier on you.
Yeah. So, in knowing that the world looks at engagement in terms of the wedding, what is the time for engagement truly for?
So I said it just a minute ago. It's about alignment, right? We're preparing.
Johnny, my word for last year was
alignment.
Alignment.
That's true. That's right. Mine was shift, but yours alignment. I would say, though, it is about aligning yourselves to become one, because if the Bible says the two become one, that is in all things. Like, listen, there may be some toes when you hear that. I think you should be joining bank accounts, right? That can be a controversial topic. I am totally for that. If the two become one, that is in all things,
right?
Every bit of it.
We got our bank accounts joined before we got married. Not a lot before, but a couple months before, so that we could start practicing, learning how to, and honestly, like having money to spend on the wedding from my family. It was a good practice run for us on how to manage money together once we were married. Yeah. Like. But we had to get an apartment together. Like we had to sign a lease together. We had to pay doggy deposits. We had to, your lives are starting to merge. Yeah. And whenever you merge lives, like it's not just a roommate, like you're merging your life with someone else.
It is all things. So the time of engagement, you plan the wedding, you do this stuff, but the true sense of the purpose of the time for the engagement period is, look, I'm serious, we're dating, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. So in order to do that, I have to prepare X, Y, and Z so we can do that. Right. That is what that is for.
Right.
So I would, whenever a relationship goes from dating to engagement, right? If I go X, Y, and Z, how does the relationship change when you go from dating to engaged?
I think one of the biggest things that happens whenever you go from dating to engaged is suddenly you have a lot of serious decisions to make. Like, if you're not living together and things like that, doing the worldly way of doing all that, like, suddenly you've got a lot of decisions to make. You've got to decide, like, okay, are we going to live at your house or my house? Are we going to break my lease or your lease? Are we going to break both of them and get a new place? Are we going to buy a house? Are we going to, okay, you've always done shipped for your shopping and had everything delivered to your door. Well, I like to peruse the aisles and go do that. Are we going to budget? Are we not?
Wow.
Like, there's a lot of big things.
Big.
Like, there's deciding, you're merging families suddenly. Like, your families may have met, or may have talked to one another, but suddenly, like, you've got to make decisions, like, big ones. Like, how are we going to deal with this family member? How are we going to set boundaries here?
Yeah.
How are we going to establish, like, date nights? Are we going to keep doing those? Like, there's all these things that you're starting to try to bring together. And so suddenly the, like, fluffy, like, what are we going to do on our date? Are we going to go to our friends, whatever thing, suddenly becomes like, okay, whose Christmas are we going to? Yours or mine? Are we going to do our own?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do? Like, suddenly it's much larger, weightier decisions that are going to be the foundation for your relationship going forward. And so suddenly it's not all fluff. Like, yes, you've got a ring on your finger. You're even making decisions about, okay, are we going to have a huge wedding? Are we going to run away and elope? We talked about eloping so many times.
Really
it's
did.
not even funny. Like, are we going to include a bunch of people? Are we going to invite the whole community? Are we going to keep it small and intimate? Like, there's so many things that go into all of that. Even, like, you have some of your, like, even registering for stuff.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it comes to going to the registry, like, are we going to buy a new couch? Or are we going to get rid of the old couch? Like, we went in rounds about the couch.
We did.
We really did.
We did.
And like, not like fighting rounds, but like, we talked about couches way more than any normal
Sat on a
couple.
bunch of them too.
Yeah, we sat on a lot of them. And we ended up with this one. Hank's Fine Furniture.
Furniture.
Anyway, so, but there's a lot of things that you're getting your life into alignment with one another. Like, how are we going to make this happen? So I think that's one of the biggest changes to the relationship is it's more major decisions that you're making as you go forward, and it's not as many small little ones, but a lot of big ones, and it opens up a lot of discussion and questions as far as, like, how do you handle your money? How do you handle your time? What is your priorities? What's not?
Yeah. I agree.
What is the hardest? Now, this one we're both going to answer, but for you, what was the hardest part of engagement and what was the easiest part of engagement?
So, being with you is easy. Like, I feel like we've walked through some serious fire together. But being with you through it all has been easy. And just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you come out, you don't even smell like smoke.
That's right.
So it's easy being with you. I can speak from our personal story of engagement and some of the difficulty that surrounded it. We had people that were supposed to be there that weren't, and that was at our wedding. Yeah. And I think that was probably the hardest part of our engagement, because all the other stuff is just fluff, dude. Like flowers for the wedding or cake, come on, it's cake, really. You gotta worry about cake.
We had one bite, and it was the bite we put in each other's mouths.
That's it.
On our 1 year anniversary. Yeah. We'll really enjoy it.
So the hardest part of engagement, I think, if I were to think outside of our personal story, a lot of the stories that I hear from other couples, it is when you merge your lives together, I think that there can be some growing pains. I think there can be some stretching in that. I think there is, you sometimes assume your person is thinking one thing and they weren't thinking that, right? So I think that would probably be the hardest part is the coming of one. Sometimes there is some stretching. Sometimes there is some challenges that you face. I know that wasn't our story because it's easy. Like you and I are so in sync, so in tune that a lot of our preferences are the same.
Right. That was
so
easy for us.
So it's easy. But that's kind of what I hear. The easiest part of it is just get to enjoy each other. We get to. I enjoyed walking the chapel. I enjoyed going through and tying the ribbon and
on the fans got married in the heat of summer. Doing
the envelopes with you because I was just spending time with you and we were doing stuff that was looking forward to that day. So for me, it was fun. It was easy. And what would you say?
I would say I'll start hard and end with the easy, but I think the hardest part was definitely there were some people that were supposed to be at our wedding that couldn't be, and that was really difficult. Mm-hmm. But it was also keeping the perspective that at the end of the day, as long as you show up and I show up, we have a marriage.
Yeah.
Like the end. Yeah. And so whenever we die, it'll be that way. When we come together, it'll be that way.
Yeah.
And so that was perspective that we had to keep. I think the other hard thing was, just dealing with like family stuff. Mm-hmm. Like our families, thank God, like they get along, they're sweet. Mm-hmm. Like we really didn't have a lot of family drama, but there's still like family merging that has to happen. And it's more about the outside. I think the other thing that's really hard about engagement season is, and especially we got married within 75 days of engagement because I never wanted a long engagement.
I don't think anybody should.
I don't like them, but that's on you. Whatever you want to do.
No.
It's a very stressful season because you're dealing with coordinating basically a big event if you're doing a wedding.
Yeah.
And you're merging your life. Like for me, like I had to move households. I had to get my mom moved into a new household. Like, there was like 3 sets of we moved him like in a 60-day period. We moved 3 times.
Yeah,
basically
that was tough,
and so that was really tough. And then you deal with family dynamics of this person can't get off work, but this person can, and this person can come into town these days, but not these days, and all these different things. And so it's just a lot of moving parts, and it feels very like crunched. Mm-hmm. And so that can feel very intense. Mm-hmm. The easiest part of engagement, I think, is the dreaming part.
Oh yeah,
because you're dreaming about the future. Like you're going, like, man, how cool would it be to like do this? And like I was so thankful, like we were blessed with a lot of gift cards, and I was able to like decorate the kids' rooms in a new way with those gift cards. We didn't even have to go out of pocket for that, cool. Which was awesome. And so like there were things that we got to dream and think about and go, oh man, like you love guitars, let's do a guitar cake. Like like we were able to make it personal.
Yeah.
And so I think to me, like that part was really fun.
Yeah. I agree.
So and also being able to plan like, oh, we're celebrating covenant. Like that was really exciting to celebrate. So
well, what does the Bible say about engagement?
So it's funny, like the Bible really doesn't say a lot. The Bible has a lot to say about marriage. Engagement, not so much. But I will say, when I think of engagement, like there's a scripture that talks about do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. I think a lot of people like to play house, like they are married, when they aren't even engaged with intention. Like there's no, in my mind, there's no deposit.
Lord,
like there ain't been no deposit
that
made.
Is today's culture.
Like there hasn't been a seriousness. Like when Michael first started dating me, I would say within the first month, he brought a flower to my mom and sat down and talked to my mom and said, I want to pursue her. Mm-hmm. Whenever you asked for my hand in marriage, like you went to my mom and you talked to her, and you went to my dad and you talked to him. Like there is something about anteing up and saying like, this is for real.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some intention that goes with that. Is that biblical? To me, I think that there's a lot of intention with that shows, because in the Bible and in the Bible time period, there was a lot that the man had to do to get the woman, whether it be,
think about Jacob.
Yeah, and how he had to work. And, and so I think about that, and there's a lot of intention there. One of the scriptures that that I thought about a lot whenever I was dating, but also engaged, was the parable of the wise and the foolish virgins. And it's found in Matthew 25. It's really talking about the end times and about Jesus coming back for his church, for his bride, as he's the bridegroom. But we all know that marriage, it mirrors the earthly covenant between a husband and wife. And so if you don't know that, newsflash, that's what it is. It's a mirroring of what happens here. And so the thing that about Matthew 25, whenever it talks about the wise and the foolish virgins, I'm just going to read it to you. It says, "Then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels for their lamps." See, these women, they had these lamps, and some of them carried oil with them so that when the light went out, they could refill it and that they would have light and they would be prepared so that when the bridegroom came back, they were ready to march out with him. And to me, like whenever I think about this parable, one of the things that I really dwelled on whenever I was single or even dating and engaged was that I wanted to keep the oil in my lamp burning. Yeah. Because the thing is if I'm burning for God, like then I am good to go with him wherever he's called me to go. If I keep my heart on fire for God and on fire for him, I'm good to go do whatever, right? Like I'm good to go to the ends of the earth being married to you. Right. And I think that there is something to that, because the thing is it says like afterward, the other virgins also came saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered and said, "As surely I say to you, I don't know you. Watch therefore that for you neither know the day nor the hour which the Son of Man is coming." And you don't know when you're going to meet your spouse. Right. You don't know when you're going to meet your husband or when you're going to meet your wife. Like you may think you know, but you probably don't. And the thing is like you've got to be prepared. So keep the oil in your lamp as you prepare. It's a season of preparedness. Right. That you're working on yourself. You're preparing your heart for marriage, preparing your heart to serve your spouse, to love your spouse well, to show them. I mean, I see Jesus more vividly through this man than I have through any other person, because of the way that he serves me and loves me as Christ loves the church, right? And so, and I hope you could say the same for me. Absolutely. You know, and the thing is that's what we are called to do, is really just to love God and to love others, and that means our spouse too. Right. And so in that season, like we're learning to love, we're learning to be covenant keeping, even in that season.
And I would also say, like, I would caution against long engagements, and I'll tell you why. This is from a biblical standpoint. The Bible talks about how it's better to marry than to burn with passion. Yeah. Okay. All right. A lot of times when you are engaged, you're in the process of going into covenant. You're in the process of merging your lives together. So it's easy to get off focus and say, "Oh well, I can't help myself, right? Well, she's going to be my wife anyways. He's going to be my husband anyways. May as well." Right. So I mean, you know, this is not written in the Bible, but it is saying that if you are burning with passion, it's better to marry. And I would strongly say, like what we did, have a short engagement season, get that planning, get it done,
it's just a day,
and move on with your life.
Well, and I would say too, like whenever I've done premarital counseling with people, fun fact, I do that sometimes. But whenever I've done premarital counseling with people, a lot of times whenever people are engaged, if you think about it, you have gone as far as you can socially without being engaged or without being married. Socially, you've gone as far as you can. Mentally, you've gone as far as you can without being married. Spiritually, you've gone as far as you can without being married. Physically, you most likely, a lot of times engaged couples are like, they're like all over each other because they cannot wait. Like you are going as far as you can publicly without being actually married. And so it's one of those things that it's like, okay, let's get the show on the road. Like, let's go. So yeah.
Okay. Practical. If we're looking at practicality,
Yeah.
I'm a practical man, right?
What are practical ways that you would say, like, recommendations for people whenever they're engaged? What are some practical? You just said one, which was don't make it long.
Well, yeah.
That's practical and biblical.
But here's what I will tell you, though. Things you can do during engagement. Obviously, prepare yourself to become one, right? In all physical ways, right? And that's the bank accounts. It's the buying a house or getting a lease together, moving in together, preparing yourselves, right? Hopefully, you're not living together previously, and you are able to do that. But also, like, don't forget about each other. It is so easy to get caught up in the season of wedding planning that you kind of forget,
like, oh, I love this person.
Pursue each other and date and do the things you've been doing leading up to it.
Yeah.
So don't forget to continue to do those things. I would also set foundations on some things, right? If you're not already praying with your person, set that as a routine. And if you, like I said, hopefully you're not living together and you guys can't do it together, we would do it on the phone.
We would. A lot of times I'd be doing my makeup in the mornings.
Yeah. I would call her. I would chat with her for, 30 minutes or so and then we would pray.
Yeah.
And so set those foundations going into your marriage and create those habits. Mm-hmm. So when you are married, it's much easier to be laying in bed drinking coffee and then being like, Father God, I just bless my spouse.
Right. Exactly. I think a couple practical things I would say during engagement, keep doing dates.
Yeah.
Not just dates where you're planning and taste testing cakes and things like that. I would say, one of the things that I love that we did, and these are kind of some practical things for whenever you're engaged and about to get married. Practical things. We went on a very casual date the night before all of our family arrived in town. Mm-hmm. We just went to like Buffalo Wild Wings and had dinner. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was so sweet because it was just kind of like let's breathe. Let's have dinner. Mm-hmm. Let's spend a little time together before it gets crazy. Yeah. We also, one of the things that I love, and we're believers, so that means we're not superstitious. We met up the morning of our wedding, just the two of us. I think it was like 7:30 in the morning. We met up before I went and got my hair and makeup done. I came and saw him, had not a stitch of makeup on. My hair was clean. And we met up and we exchanged gifts with each other that morning before we saw anyone. And we prayed together. Yep. And honestly, it was like the perfect thing. It got my nerves down. Like it calmed me.
Heck yeah.
It was like, oh my God, I love him so much.
I know.
Like, this is perfect. Also, like we did our first look. We did our first look pictures and video. Yeah. Alone in our wedding space.
It was so
before
good.
Anyone else saw it, we got to see it. So we got to take it in and kind of enjoy it and see each other and read private vows to one another that not everybody got to hear, except for in our video. Yeah. But the thing is I love that because whenever you are walking down the aisle, ladies, just want you to know, the room's swirling. You're seeing all the people. You're seeing all the things. Your train is getting caught on one of the my train got caught on one of the pews and I almost fell backwards and had to almost restart the music. It was kind of crazy, but you're it's just a lot to take in. And so you want to be able to take it in with your spouse. I would say practical things during your engagement. We only invited, and this ruffled some feathers. So if you're one of those feathers that got ruffled, forgive us. But we only invited a very small amount of people that really had walked with us through it or been supportive of both of us in our seasons getting to the altar. And so we kept it small because we were we want people in this room that we know we could call if things got tough. Yeah. And so those are the people that we invited. Absolutely. We didn't invite the whole world. Now, if you want to invite the whole world, do your thing.
We picked a small venue for that reason.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
So I'm trying to think think of other practical things like during engagement. I mean, make it fun. Make it fun. Like us picking out cakes and stuff. Like we tried several different places and like we just made it fun. We went and got cupcakes. It was good. All right. I think those are kind of the main. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I am. But
I think those are good tips. If you have any other tips, let us know.
Yeah, drop them in there.
But okay, where can we follow Waves? We're gonna follow you. This has been a good. I hope that everybody's gotten some kind of something, because engagement is a season that feels like you're driving a race car.
It feels like a freight train.
Yeah.
It's like it's moving faster than you can, and you're like, oh, it's coming. So,
I hope you're able to get something out of this. Where can we follow Waves? Where can we follow you?
So Waves Ministry Inc. You can follow Waves on social media, whether it be TikTok or Instagram. We're on all streaming platforms. wavesministry.org. And for me personally, I'm Mrs. Caroline Tomlin on all social media.
She is.
And he is Mr. Michael Tomlin. So we are excited to wrap up this series next week as we talk about marriage redefined. And so we hope you will join us for that, because we're talking about the real deal, marriage. Marriage.
Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next episode. Bye.
Bye.